have you introduce yourself, and then we'll jump into some questions. So I'm Casey Saran. I'm the founder and CEO at Spaceback, and we are a company that helps brands basically recreate social media experiences in ad units. So we see that most brands are heavily invested in content on social media, and display ads a lot of times are more of an afterthought. So we work with a lot of brands to help them power their paid media and a lot of programmatic and display creative through leveraging social media content. So that's what I do. Stephanie, why don't you tell the audience what you do?
Sure. I work for Avocados from Mexico. So we are actually a marketing and promotions board that support all of the avocados that are imported in from Mexico. I've actually been with the company for about 6.5 years now. When I started with the company, I started on the shopper marketing side of the business. Actually, when I started, the company was very new, maybe only 6 months to 12 months old at that time. So, hearing Taco Bell with all their history and everything, we're kind of in the total opposite side of that. We're a very young company. So that first year was really building up the shopper marketing business. I worked alone, kind of the lone wolf there with our trade team, trying to get that off the ground. After I was there for about a year, then I moved over to food service to do the same thing. It was a new piece of the business for us that we hadn't focused on before. So I was actually with our food service business for the last 5 years. And then just about 4 or 5 months ago, I moved over to our digital team. So now I'm working on digital with a focus supporting both our shopper and food service teams, since I have that background on those businesses. But also a big goal of mine is to work on our e-com business this next year. So that's my history with Avocados from Mexico. I've also worked with some other CPG companies, with Mission Foods, Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, and Frito-Lay in the past as well. So a pretty longer workflow and longer work history than I would like to admit at this point. But yeah, a little bit about me.
That's great. Thank you. And I assume you're an avocado lover as well. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes, it is a very safe assumption. I definitely I'm definitely in that heavy user category. I probably buy at least 4 or 5 avocados every week, because I have to have it, at least every day on a meal or two.
Cool. Yeah. And this is a really fun fireside chat for me, because most of the brands that I talked to, it's kind of hard for me to get my head wrapped around how you were saying you don't actually, sell a product.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me and our audience a little bit more, like, how we should think about Avocados from Mexico as an organization, and how does it work? Like, are you just promoting avocados, but the point of sale is wherever? Are there any specific points of sale you're driving consumers to?
Yeah, so we are a marketing and promotions board, as I said. So our goal is really to support our importers, exporters, and growers of avocados. So, like I said, we're not from Mexico. We're based in the U.S. All of our marketing dollars are to be spent in the U.S. And then we actually get an assessment. So for every pound of avocados that crosses the border, we get a certain amount of money, and that makes up our budget for the year. And so, yeah, there's nowhere specific that we really try to get it to, but we focus on retail. We work with Walmart and Kroger and different groups like that to drive their avocado volume. On the food service side of the business, we'll work with a Chipotle, or, one day we'd love to work with a Taco Bell on their product and whatnot. And then, we also work with college and universities, different broadliner groups. So really supporting that full array of folks, but not that we're specifically focused just in one area.
Gotcha. That's helpful. And before I jump into the harder questions, I'm just curious, what's special about avocados from Mexico versus just avocados? Or like, what are you trying to get consumers to remember about? Yeah.
So the big thing with avocados from Mexico that makes us unique from everyone else is that we have 4 growing seasons. So that means that avocados from Mexico are actually available all year round. So a lot of people tend to fall into the camp of thinking that avocados might just be a summer fruit, But think about all that guacamole you consume during Super Bowl. So the product is actually available all year round. We're actually in our strongest growing season right now. So that's our biggest point of differentiation from some other countries where maybe their peak season might only be those summer months.
Yep, gotcha. Cool. So let's jump into a little bit more kind of some specific projects, or kind of help me understand a little bit more about what you're doing in market. 2020 obviously being a crazy year. Are there some examples of projects that you've worked on this year that you and your team have been proud of that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a crazy year. And when COVID hit and everything went down, I was still on the food service side of our business at that point. And actually, I would say maybe about a month and a half before COVID hit, we actually launched one of the biggest projects I've personally ever worked on in my career, which is we launched a restaurant in Dallas called Avo Eatery. We worked in partnership with Trinity Groves, a group in Dallas. It's a project that we had been working on for a good year and a half or so, and it was developed from the ground up. So, it was doing focus groups and research to understand would people be interested in a restaurant focused on all avocado, trying to figure out what type of menu we would do, where would we fit into the space. We wanted to make sure, even though we're avocado from Mexico, one of the big things we like to always showcase is the versatility of the avocado. So we don't just want people always thinking about guacamole or Mexican food. So we really wanted a concept that went beyond Mexican food and really broadened people's horizons on that front. So, the end of January actually is when we launched the restaurant. Like I said, it was a year and a half in the making. And it was doing exactly what we had hoped it would do at the time COVID hit. Like every week we were gaining more and more traction for it. We were getting a lot of people in the door. We had a lot of excitement around the restaurant. So in a year that was a little bit tough, it was still exciting to be able to launch that restaurant and see what it was. And it's still coming back. Obviously we had a little bit of a struggle in there of, a little bit of especially when everything closed down and people weren't allowed to go in person, we had to switch to an online model really fast and delivery, which wasn't normally in our scope when we were first thinking about it. It was more of a destination restaurant and area. So we had to do a lot of pivoting and thinking on the fly at that point, but we kept it going through COVID, which is great. And it's really starting to ramp back up, and we're starting to see those numbers get back to where we need it to be.
Amazing. And I'm just curious, what are the goals of the restaurant? I assume a big part of it, like you said, is showcasing and awareness of the avocado. But in terms of what you're measuring, with the restaurant to validate that it is driving more awareness. I assume it's just not the restaurant bills. But how do you kind of measure those other effects of having a restaurant business?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things with the restaurant that we were thinking about beyond just like the consumer side of things was on the B2B side. And so we are using the restaurant as an incubator to really test out new items. So as we're working with a partner and, they're hesitant about trying a new item on their menu, we're like, hey, we can put it on the menu here, test it out, see how the sales do. Obviously we have a full menu of items that we're constantly testing and figuring out which ones are the best sellers, which ones are resonating. And we're able to take all those learnings and share them with our partners and say, hey, did you know that our hot sandwich with avocado slaw and avocado slices on it, that's our #1 seller. And different things like that we're able to share with our different partners on the B2B side.
Yep, very cool. And those partners on the B2B side, how are you? Can you give an example of kind of a B2B partner and how you work with them? It's really interesting to help them with product research and stuff, but maybe kind of the overall scope of those relationships.
Yeah, when we're working on the food service side of the business, I mean, there's a lot of different ways we partner with different groups. Some of them, it is being their menu and like innovation arm. Not everyone has that innovation staff, and especially, with COVID, it tends to be that's unfortunately a group that gets hit the hardest as people are having to make cuts and those hard decisions. So we really are in an innovation group for folks. So we work with them and come up with different menu items. And like we said, we can test them out. Actually, whenever we do work with someone, we like to put them, test the concepts and make sure that those concepts score well with consumers. So that's something else that we bring to the table, is not only are we bringing items, but we're also testing them for you. We'll do research with folks. Sometimes it's just as easy or simple as putting together a promotion with them. Like if they have avocado already on their menu, we will develop some sort of a program. Maybe it's a game or a coupon offer or something. We'll do a digital play with it to try to highlight that item is available to gain more sales, work with their creative and POP at the point of purchase in store. And another kind of behind the scenes area that we're really working on and testing out is education as well. So avocados can be a little bit tricky to those who aren't familiar with working with them. And even people who are looking at, okay, right now we use maybe a processed product because it's much easier for us to handle. We'll help train them on how they can use fresh product and all the best, practices back of house for them.
Yep, very cool. And let's talk digital more specifically. So obviously, 2020 changes to restaurant and whether or not you can have people in store. Obviously, a lot of changes on the digital side too. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe give a brief overview of kind of the overall digital strategy and what channels and environments you are in, and then also some of the ways that you've adapted to changes in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things we saw in 2020 is, there was a lot of people that were scared to actually go to the store. I'm not going to lie, I'm personally one of those people. I have not been to a grocery store since March. I do all of my shopping online now. So that was one of the biggest things that we saw, especially as I moved into that e-commerce role, is that e-com side of the business and the adoption rate. We actually saw the rates this year of people that adopted and moved to, trying an online service. Numbers weren't supposed to be reached until 2023. And even the sales now that they're projecting in 2025 are double what they were originally projecting before COVID, because you're getting all those early adopters of people who weren't necessarily thinking, or they were going to try it, but they were kind of forced into it. And that adoption cycle is really the hardest part, is to get people to try it the first time. So COVID really did accelerate that online shopping piece. And then what we're seeing is for people that are going in store now, it's a little less leisurely than it used to be. So people that are going in store now are really, they're creating their lists and they're prepared and they're going in and know exactly what they want to get, and they're not straying much from their list. So those impulse purchases are reducing. So one of our key focuses is really trying to get with consumers in that pre-shop phase that they're in, and when they're creating their list, and trying to make sure that we're on the list, through different recipe inspiration and different things as they're meal prepping and planning out their week.
Cool. I'm sure I'm just having pre-COVID flashbacks to being at the grocery store and squeezing every avocado to get the perfectly ripe avocado to take home. And I didn't even think about with COVID and people not shopping for themselves. It's different with avocado. Where a box of cereal, it doesn't matter, but shopping experience is different for an avocado. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we saw on the e-commerce side too that was surprising is we thought there might be hesitancy from people to purchase avocados online, just because of what you said. Sometimes if they want to, cook something that night or make a guac that night, and they get an avocado in and it's hard, then obviously they can't use it that day, or vice versa. If it comes in ripe and ready to go, but they weren't planning on using it for a few days, we were a little concerned, and we weren't sure how people would respond to that. But when we looked at, the penetration on online sales, the average food and beverage category was at like a 6.2% penetration, and avocados were actually above that at 7.9%. So while people might have been hesitant to buy them, I think at the same point they know the nutritional value, and a lot of people wanted just to make sure they were getting the fresh and healthy foods in their basket as well. So that helped with the sales online.
Yep, cool. And then with regards to digital, can you tell us a little bit more about paid digital? Like, do you buy media, like programmatic or other channels? Is that part of your digital strategy?
Yeah, I mean, every program's a little bit different with how we set it up. I would say probably from the short time I've been on digital, full time, programmatic, and then Facebook seem to be our two biggest buys that we're consistently doing there. Again, it depends on which program and what the goal is. I mean, if it's more on like impressions or whatnot, we'll go a little bit more on the programmatic side. If we're looking, to drive, like clicks to something, or, get people to sign up for something specific, we might go a little bit more on the Facebook side of things or social side to try to engage with them a little bit more. So it really just varies by program.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah, and if anyone listening in is hungry right now, do not go to the Avocados from Mexico Instagram page, because it's full of like amazing pictures of recipes, and I think there's like 50 different types of guacamole on there. So it's really cool to see your social presence is so strong. With regards to that channel, are you creating content for that internally? Is that something that's done with some of your B2B partners, or how is that being curated?
Yeah, we have some people on our team that actually work specifically on our social channels and Instagram specifically. Actually, right now we're working with a new photographer that we haven't worked with in the past to really try to pump up our Instagram account even more with some really cool photography, and to entice people a little bit more, because we know it's so visual. So going away from some of our standard photography of recipes and trying to do some unique things there. So be looking for that in the next few months as we get that up and running. But yeah, it's a combination of in-house and then our agency partners. We do have quite a few groups that we work with on the digital side of the business. Everybody kind of has their own specialty, but I would say on the social side, we do have some great in-house folks who really focus on that.
Cool. And then do you run paid social as well? You mentioned Facebook.
Yeah, for sure. So again, it depends on the program and really what our goals are at the end of the day and KPIs and everything. But yeah, we definitely have a lot of paid social that we're working on.
Yep, cool. Yeah, and I've just noticed this is neither here or there, but just avocados in like pop art and pop culture. I've been seeing more like avocado Halloween costumes this year popping up on my feeds. I assume that that's good for avocado sales in some way or another, but is that something that you're monitoring as well? And how does your team attribute the overall popularity of things that are avocado but not actually like eating avocados, because it does seem like it's on the rise?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we love to see. I think my company, all the employees individually, we buy half of that stuff ourselves. Whenever we see the fun t-shirts, I think one year we actually had a pregnant lady that came in with the pit as her belly and everything, and we've definitely had some folks dress up as avocados over the years. So I mean, yeah, it's not something that we necessarily do, but we love to see it and encourage it. I mean, it's fun for us. I'm always searching and seeing if I can find fun avocado things, and people always are buying them for us as well. These family members, I always have like avocado towels or different things that they find out there that are fun, and so it's really fun to see. I think Chipotle probably had a big part of that with yes, I know guac is extra t-shirts that they had come out a few years ago, and people had a little bit of fun with that. And then you start to see it in like Nordstrom and some lines and different things. So yeah, it's been fun to see, and it's something that we're thinking about. What can we maybe do in that fashion world or something moving forward? So again, that's another one to maybe be on the lookout in the future years with us, because we do
Okay,
see
cool.
a lot of legs with it and think it could be a lot of fun and really get into that brand and social conversation.
Yep. Very cool. And it's so authentic that it's happening organically. Like, you know, it is something that when people just love avocados. You know, Nina and I said that before we even introduced ourselves. So it is fun to work with a product that people just authentically love, and you know, it's genuine when people are putting on an avocado costume. It's not because of a brand association or anything.
Right.
So that's really cool. So let's shift gears, kind of looking forward to 2021 now. It feels weird even saying that, but what's top of mind for you as you prepare for the new year and start thinking 2021 strategy?
Yeah, I mean, for 2021, it's really continuing to monitor the world around us, and you know, there's still a lot of uncertainty of, is there going to be another really big second wave of COVID that hits? And so right now we're kind of we're actually getting, our fiscal year runs so July to June. So we actually start our planning really in the beginning of January for our next year. And so as we're getting into that, you know, I think we're going to go full steam ahead, assuming that the world is going to be more normalized again. But from our perspective, it's really just being able to pivot as things happen and move quickly and adapt as we need to. I know this past year, you know, like I said, food service, it was a little bit tough on that side of the business for a few months. And so when food service got hit a little bit more, we shifted some funds over to shopper and in-store and making sure that we were supporting that side of the business. So I think it's just continuing to monitor everything and just be ready to you know, pivot as needed and make sure that we kind of have some contingency plans in place.
Yep, and a lot of brands that we've been working with, we've seen like changes to digital marketing spend as a result of, you know, supply chain issues and COVID having impacted that. Is that something, you know, with the avocados from Mexico? I mean, you know, should I think of it as an unlimited supply of avocados and constant growing season, or are there supply chain challenges that, you know, you've experienced in 2020 or expect in the future?
No, I mean, the thing about avocados is that they are a fruit. They grow on a tree, so they're actually a berry. And so, you know, the trees.
Wait, hang on. Avocado is a berry?
Yeah, so from the berry family. So it grows on a tree. It has a seed. Most people don't know that it's a fruit. And so, you know, even when as I've been working on the e-com business and trying to work on our digital shelf, definitely seeing that a lot of people expect to see avocado listed as a vegetable. So that's something that we, you know, are always working on and monitoring on that front. But, you know, but the point with that is that the trees some years have stronger blooms than other years. So it is a little bit cyclical there. We're not like a normal CPG company. We can't just go and say, okay, well, demand is strong, so we'll go add a third shift right now. But I mean, what we've seen overall is that the crop over the last year and a half, and what's forecasted for this next year is super strong. So knock on wood, hopefully everything goes as planned, but we're not foreseeing any supply issues. And actually we've had some really strong weeks over the last few months. So again, we experienced a little bit of a dip, I think, at the beginning of COVID, but we rebounded really nicely in the last like 5 months since then.
Good. Yeah, that's great to hear. And I've definitely been doing my part on the avocado consumption. So what trends in consumer behavior, like we've talked about some 2020 being a crazy year, but what consumer you know, behavior trends are of particular importance to you? You said kind of for 2021, a big part is, you know, pay attention to what's happening, you know, around you and you know, evolve and innovate accordingly. But what are the like specific kind of consumer trends that you're paying most attention to?
I mean, from my perspective, just given my role and what I'm moving into, it is the e-commerce piece. So that's my big task for this next year, is continuing to grow our e-commerce business. Where the team before me, they started wading in a little bit last year. This year, we're doing a few more programs on the e-commerce side, and I expect that moving into next year, as we start our planning and putting our strategy together for next year, that we're going to continue to add focus to that piece of the business. Just knowing that so many people have adopted it, and it might not be a necessity thing moving forward, but that convenience factor, for folks, we think that's going to, really help play out and continue to drive that business. And we want to make sure that we're not going too fast into it. We don't want to go and throw a lot of money at it. We're trying to learn as we go. So we're trying little programs here and there to see which ones work for us. But I think as we move into 2021, that's definitely going to continue to be a much bigger focus for us.
Yeah, cool. And we talked about people being comfortable with online shopping for avocados, where that was something you weren't totally sure about at the beginning of COVID, and it's been great. We've seen people continuing to enjoy avocados even though they can't poke everyone in the grocery store. So is that part of those learnings, part of what is making you more optimistic about driving a greater e-commerce business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think those numbers were really eye-opening for the whole company when we saw them, really. We were pleasantly surprised by them. In some of our top retailers like Walmart, we saw that on e-com, I think their numbers were even higher than that. Maybe like 15% of their sales of avocados were actually coming from online.
Sorry, Stephanie, was that 15 or 50?
15, sorry, 15. Yes, not 50. That would be crazy. But 15 is actually a very strong number, and a lot more than we thought we would see, even with one of our biggest, obviously, retailers that we work with there. So all of those factors, have given us a lot of confidence moving into next year that we're going to be able to move the needle, and make some good impact with that side of the business.
Yep. Very cool. So one of the questions I told you I was gonna ask in advance was just if you could talk about a recent campaign that was successful. So we talked about the restaurant, but maybe if there's something specific on the digital side, a specific campaign or initiative that you can share.
Yeah. So actually, it started on the food service side of the business, but several years ago, we actually launched an Avocado University. It was an in-person program where we bring in different either operator partners or dietitians or college and universities. And we have them come in and they immerse with us for a day and they learn all things avocados. So we take them through, overall, what's the avocado market like? Who are we at AFM? How can we support them? Understanding all of the safety standards that we put into place. And then we do a lot of fun demos and innovation. We always do a guac challenge with everyone where we have very cool little guac trophies that we give to the winning team and people are super competitive with it. But it's a really fun day. But as you can imagine, we maybe are able to do 10 to 12 classes a year. So the reach on it's not as big as we would have liked. I mean, those that come in, we saw great success with being able to turn programs around with them, and really, work with those partners even more. So what we did this past year, and we actually just launched it a few months ago, is we took the general learnings from that Avocado University, and we now have an online Avo U. And so we have two paths for it. There is actually a retail path as well as a food service path. And then those, professionals can come in and, go through, a lot of the key learnings of what we teach in a half an hour. And at the end of that half an hour, they can get their own Avocado University certificate. So we've been working with some big retailers. I know that Albertsons Safeway is interested in it, Rousers, some other guys that we're working with to really make it part of their training program with their employees, to help with that experience so that when, if the back of house employees or the retail employees know how to handle the avocados better, then it becomes a better experience for the end consumer. And so even though we just launched it, less than 2 months ago, we've already had more people go through and graduate from that program than we had in the prior several years with the in-person one. So we expect to continue to see those numbers grow as we're talking to different partners about it, but that one's been, a very good success for us over the last few months. Again, just trying to bring that learning to everyone.
Yeah, that's so cool. I would love to go to Avocado University. And my girlfriend and I also argue about the right way to cut an avocado. So it sounds like we might be able to settle that one once and for all too.
Well, we did just launch on our avocadosformexico.com page. If you go to our how-to section, we just launched some fun simulators on there that do show you how to cut your avocado and slice it and dice it. So go and check those out as well. Those only launched like maybe a week or two ago. So very new program out there for us. So a little early to see the success of it yet, but we think those will be a really good, fun, interactive program for folks as well to go out there and learn a little bit more about avocados.
Cool. We had a brief intro call yesterday before this conversation, and I feel like I'm just learning so much more stuff as we're talking more that you're doing. Sounds like you have your hands in a lot of different things. And on the digital side, really cool to see so much engagement, even with challenges having a restaurant and bringing people more online through education and stuff. So congratulations, and I'm definitely going to check that out for how to cut an avocado. I'm getting some questions in from the audience that I'm going to share with you. One of these questions I think you briefly touched on, but this is regards to a lot of brands have had drastically reduced media budgets. And how has your plan adjusted? I know you mentioned something around your budgeting and kind of planning cycles being a little different than most traditional brands. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're actually unique in that, for the most part, unless the supply is decreased for some reason, we've been very blessed that we've had very few budget cuts over the years. For the most part, we've been lucky and we've actually had more avocados come in than expected, so we might have even gotten a little bump here and there. And we do have to spend our money within our fiscal year. But at AFM, we're always trying to innovate and do different things. So, when with media, what we're always trying to do, and especially on the digital side, is always trying, new technologies or little things that haven't been done before. Just to again we always like to be the first to do something or try something different or think outside the box a little bit with our program. So, we were the first produce brand that ever did a Super Bowl ad several years ago, which was something that was a very big point of pride for us. We actually went down to South by Southwest a few years ago and kind of took over the conversation there. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but we were in part of the Macy's Day Parade. And our Avocados from Mexico hashtag was the #1 hashtag of that parade, even more than Macy's itself.
Wow.
So our team's always looking to do something new and different and kind of shake up things. And actually going back to the Super Bowl, when you talk about like media and being efficient with your spend, I mean, our Super Bowl media or digital spend is not that much compared to a lot of brands. We're not anywhere near the millions of dollars that other brands are spending. And to brag on my own team for a bit that I joined, Avocados from Mexico is the only brand that finished first or second in the Merkle digital report for each of the last 6 years, from a digital conversation side of the business. So, we're always just trying to be scrappy and maximize our spend with our programs.
Cool. Well, would love to work with you to see if we can leverage that social content to drive some more results on the paid media side of things. I have a bunch of questions coming in from the audience, so it's awesome to see people so engaged. Keep them coming. I'm going to ask you a few of these. I know we only have a few minutes left, but this question is, do you have challenges by state, or are there specific regions that are way more into avocados than others, and trying to be like regionally focused for how you're promoting avocados?
No, I would say the only real challenges we face are when California avocados are in their peak growing season. California is difficult sometimes to maybe promoting if we're working, say we wanted to work with like a Chili's and do a big national promotion with them. And we want to say that they're serving avocados from Mexico everywhere. If it's during the summer months, that might not necessarily be true in California. So sometimes we have a little bit of trickiness with programs like that because we don't want to be saying that they're serving something that they're not at that time frame. But we looked at some regional strategies over the years, but it's something that even in like the Midwest or some areas that you would think maybe aren't as big avocado fans, that it's increasing. Every year we're seeing a lot more consumption across the whole country.
Yep, cool. And I like this question, nice segue, but what do you believe the future of experiential marketing will look like in the food category?
Yeah, that's a tough one because that's an area we've focused a lot. Another area that we've been doing a lot is with concession stands. So we have a stand at the American Airlines Center. We've got one down in Miami, and we were actually looking to like launch up in Boston and being able to do some of those different things and even going to different events and stuff. We've had to really scale back on that front. So I know that we have some folks that work in our event marketing. And that's an area that we're keeping an eye on because it's an area we believe in and we like to do different things. And like I said, we're going down to South by Southwest and doing those different types of activations are a big part of our program of what we like to do with folks because we don't have, necessarily like a store that you go into or something to interact with our products on a regular basis. So that's our way of doing it. So we're continuing to monitor things, and as much as we can do experiential and bring those programs back as soon as we can, we're definitely going to go back into that space. But we're watching just like everybody else, and as soon as it's good to go, we're going to be back there.
Yep. I see Nina's back. So Nina, do I have time for one more question?
One more question's fine.
Okay, just one more question for the audience I like here is, how do you think about brand purpose when communicating with your consumers? I know even during COVID, it's something that a lot of brands have paid more attention to. What's their role in the community? Do you have brand purpose, with avocados from Mexico, and how does that impact your approach to marketing?
Yeah, I mean, one of our biggest challenges overall is just making sure people realize that we are a brand. Because if you look at the fruit in store, it's not like we're able to label it in any way, shape, or form. It just has that little sticker on the back of it. So that's something that we're always talking about. But yeah, as a brand, we always want to make sure that we are representing the entire category and that we've got the best safety standards and different things. So we're always trying to, and we want to make sure, we're proud of our fruit itself, and we put really high quality standards in place. So it's just always communicating those messages to the consumers, really talking about the health and wellness and leading that part of the conversation for the category as well, because avocados do have so many nutritional elements that are so important as well. So, a lot of different ways that we're communicating with folks, just trying to make sure that they understand that we are a brand, and then, what are some of the benefits of avocados and whatnot there.
Yep. Awesome. Stephanie, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and learning more about all things avocados from Mexico. So looking forward to staying in touch with you and the rest of the content we have this afternoon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie and Casey, for joining us and for a great conversation. Who else had their mind blown when Stephanie mentioned that an avocado is in the berry family? I know that Casey definitely was surprised, and his reaction was very funny. But it seems like a lot of us need to head to Avocado University to learn a bit more about our favorite food. So thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
And for anyone in our audience posting about today's event, be sure to use the hashtag